Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more gel testing. And today we've got a really interesting combo to put into the ballistics gel and see what kind of terminal performance they actually do have. It's been requested several times as well, and I've definitely wanted to try it to see what it could do, since I think it's going to be a little more capable than what some people probably think or may give it credit for. And I can indeed attest to how these shells can actually perform out in the field as well, because they will certainly get the job done. But for the load we're running, I brought out some more of these. The Brenneke USA 28 gauge slugs. These are a 28 gauge, 2 3/4 inch, 5/8 ounce slug, and the back of the box says about 1450 for muzzle velocity. Now, we have done a couple videos on these so far. Last fall, if you have not seen, we did do some accuracy testing with these, as well as run them into some water jugs to see what kind of penetration we have. Here is the card to that video above if you actually want to see that test. These are pretty accurate overall, especially when you find the right choke combo for them. They're plenty good enough out to 50 yards or so. And with the weight and energy and stuff that these are pushing, I'd say they're a 50 yard and in kind of reliable deer hunting combination. But speaking of deer hunting, we also did a deer hunt with these last fall. I took these out and got a nice doe last September with them. I think the shot was about 40 yards, and they performed flawlessly actually in the field as well. So I know these actually do have some pretty good terminal performance behind them, but we have not ran them into any ballistics gel yet, which will actually give us a pretty decent view on the true wound channel and stuff like that that they leave. So that's what we're here to accomplish today. For the shotgun we're running, I brought out my Tristar Viper 28 gauge. It's got a 28-inch barrel on it, and we've got the stock improved cylinder choke screwed in. This is the setup that we accuracy tested them with and the setup that we deer hunted with. So we know this is a perfectly fine performer with these shells. But today's question is, what are they going to do in some gel blocks? So that's what we've got set up here. These are two 16-inch blocks of 10% clear ballistics gel. They are a little bit on the cloudier side, and we do have one previous wound track through here, but I flipped the blocks around the other way, so we'll start up here with a much cleaner front end to the block. Obviously, they're not crystal clear, but we will still be able to see everything we need to see. And I do have some new blocks on the way as well by the time this video actually releases for you guys. But these are perfect for those rifle tests and slug tests and stuff where it really tears the block up or makes a mess or drags a bunch of stuff in. So everything will be perfectly fine for our test today. So what we'll do is I'll walk it about 25 yards that direction. That's a good kind of middle of the range capability for these shells for practical kind of deer hunting applications and stuff. And that'll give us a little more realistic result than just point blanking it essentially. So I'll walk 25 yards. I've got the chronograph as well so we can get velocities, and we'll take a shot into this gel and see what kind of performance we really actually have, because I think it's going to surprise some people. So we had 1368 for a muzzle velocity from that particular shot. Boss claim is 1450, however high 13s is what we typically see from this setup in those shells, so we can use that number here in a minute to calculate some energy. But now as far as our gel goes, we see some very impressive performance here overall. We put that slug right where I wanted it, a little bit farther forward towards the camera in the block. That stayed well out of our other tracks that were already in there. Very nice wound track there. Not anything massively explosive, but immediate wound track that carries all the way out 3/4 of the way through the first block to 10 to 12 inch range or so. And we continue penetrating well into the second block and almost came out of the top there, sitting just shy about the 27-inch mark. But if we walk around to the other side of the blocks here, you can see that slug trying to escape out of the top right there. Just barely held it in the block since it kind of ramped upwards as it penetrated through, but looks perfect. Little bit of flattening on the nose, but that's about it. That's exactly what I would expect out of a Brenneke slug right there. Fantastic penetration for a 28 gauge. I don't think you can argue with that. I mean, that is a 54 caliber hole right there in the front of the block. So it punches a good hole. it's got a solid wound channel to it. Doesn't carry a massive amount of energy with it, but you don't need to when you've got a slug that's designed like this. That's why the Brenneke slugs, especially in the sub gauges, are so nice to run when you're actually deer hunting with them and stuff like that. You can get away with a rifled slug in like a 410 or something, but it's very much so borderline. The 410 Brenneke slugs are a way better deer hunting option, and although there's pretty much no rifled slugs unless you kind of make your own or find some very particular ammunition for 28 gauge, you've still got a slug here that's absolutely going to do the job. We saw it go completely through both shoulders on a whitetail deer last fall and exit out the opposite side. It put that deer down very quickly, and I mean, we see the channel right here. Not a massive amount of energy, but energy isn't the end all be all. You need a good wound channel and you need enough penetration to do the job, and we've got plenty of both right here. So very nice performance, and I bet that surprises a good number of people for the lowly little 28 gauge. You can't argue with that. Even if you're not carrying a fantastic amount of energy, there's not going to be very many things that have a good day after being hit with that kind of wound track and penetration capability. Alright, so here we have our 28 gauge Brenneke slug in here on the bench. We can get a real good up close look at it there. It did exactly what it's designed to do, push that little tail piece up against the back of the slug, and the nose flattened out just a little bit towards the edges, but no major expansion or nothing like that. Exactly what they're intended to do. And that is where we started at for a reference. You can see that little nose cone piece. Not much difference, although you can see it push the tail wad up farther into the back of the slug there. Overall, exactly the performance I expected out of it. Nothing special went on as far as that goes into the gel. And since I'm down here in the basement, this is the slug that I deer hunted with last year. This is the one I found in the dirt after it went through both shoulders on the front of a doe. You can see a little bit of bone stuck in there, a little bit harder smashing on the front from hitting bone, but pretty much same story. These things hold together very well out in the field also. So it's not just gel. You might get a little more smush into the lead, but that's about it if you actually hunted with them. As far as expansion goes, not much except right at the very front tip. We're at 0.588 overall there. Comparing that to kind of the base area of the actual slug there where it's not smushed flat, we're right at 0.540. 28 gauge sits right about 54 caliber, so exactly what we should be. Now, as far as weight goes, these are supposed to be 5/8 ounce, which is about 273-ish grains overall if we do the conversion. And I don't think we lost a ton of weight, but we're sitting at 263, so we're 10 grains short. They could be a little bit kind of rounding up just the 5/8 of an ounce, because I think last time we shot these into some water jugs and stuff, this is about the same. So 263.2, I would say that's a pretty good, very close to 100% weight retention number right there. So if we do the calculations after the fact, as far as energy numbers go for this slug, if we did lose a tiny little bit of weight and it is a true 5/8 ounce slug at about 273 grains, at the muzzle velocity of 1368 that we had for this shot, that would equal 1134 foot-pounds. If we go off of the 263 weight that we had recovered here, that's 1093 foot-pounds. Either which way, it's about 1100 foot-pounds. Like we already said, not a massive amount of energy necessarily, but you saw the performance right there. You could absolutely push that out a little farther range as well. Like I said earlier also, 50 yards, definitely not out of the question. I've done it at 40. It tends to work fantastic. And who knows, you could probably still get it to go a little farther if you wanted. But reliably, 50 yards or so, I'd say this slug is perfectly capable of any kind of deer hunting you'd want to do with it. Alright, well, what do y'all think about that performance here for the 28 gauge Brenneke slugs? I bet it probably surprised a good number of people out there. I've already tested these last fall for accuracy and some penetration in some water jugs, and that was pretty impressive. Then I deer hunted with them. They performed amazing in that application as well. 40-yard shot blown through both shoulder blades and kept on going into the dirt behind the deer. And I mean, we see it right here in the gel. We got a decently solid wound channel about 3/4 of the way through that first block. It's nothing explosive, but it's going to certainly do some good disruption. And the penetration, I mean, you're looking at about 28 inches or so. That is pretty impressive. The lowly little 28 is a perfectly capable slug hunting combination, especially within 50 yards or so. Realistically, you could probably push it a little farther than that with that kind of channel and penetration capability, but even though I said earlier, energy isn't the end-all be-all factor, I still want a little bit of something to have a little bit of a punch effect to it, rather than just poking a hole. So 50 yards and in, I mean, you can't argue with that. That's a perfectly adequate deer hunting combination. You could also do predator stuff with that. I mean, technically, I think that's what they advertise these for, and it would definitely work for that application, but you gotta think, if you got a 28 gauge like that Tristar, you can drill and tap the top of the receiver, mount a small little red dot or a scope or something on that, and have a legitimate deer hunting gun for a youth hunter. These slugs are accurate. With those youth hunters, you're gonna be probably trying to get them inside of 50 yards. Some of you may be in shotgun only areas. So what's there not to like? It's very light recoiling, very manageable overall, and the performance is absolutely there. So can't complain what these little 28 gauge Brenneke can actually do. But let me know all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any 28 gauge slugs like this? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Is this a combo you would ever actually do anything with? Would you hunt with it? Or would you stick to your 12 or 20 gauge options? And what other stuff do you want to see us do when it comes to 28 gauge or the Brenneke slugs in 28 as well? If you want to see another deer hunt with them, let me know. I definitely had fun doing it, but let me know what you guys might want to see. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox. You can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.